Hey everyone, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2024 Chevy Equinox, we're going to be showing you how to install the Roadmaster Smart Diode Wiring Kit. Before we do that though, let's take a minute, we'll check these out and make sure they're going to work for your Equinox. Right off the bat, a lot of people ask, what are the main parts that I'm going to even need to flat tow my Equinox down the road in the first place? And there's a total of 5 major components. You'll have your base plate, your tow bar, your safety cables, your tow bar wiring, and your supplemental braking system. And with the Equinox 2, there's a couple other parts I like to recommend as well. One of them being a battery charge line kit, as well as an automatic battery disconnect switch. What a diode wiring or tow bar wiring kit is going to do is pretty simple. It's just going to transfer the lighting functions from the back of your coach to the back of your Equinox. That way people know what's going on, and it's a legal requirement too. But what you're going to get is your turn signals, your brake lights, as well as your tail lights. So you have all your bases covered there. And there's 2 different types of these smart diode kits, if you will. You'll have some that are designed to work with LED type lights like ours has here today. And from my experience, a vast majority of them are LEDs. But if you happen to have some with the kind of regular incandescent type bulbs, there's a kit designed to specifically work for those types of lights as well. The diodes are something that I recommend for pretty much all flat tows across the board, not just the Equinox. And I say that because once they're installed, you're not even going to know that they're there. And putting in a little bit of work to get everything set up is well worth it whenever you are ready to flat tow behind your motorhome. And I say because all you're going to have to do to get the lights working and everything is simply just plug a cable end to the back of your coach into the front of the Chevy, and that's it. You don't have to set up lights every time and run stuff and things like that. So it makes it a really straightforward process. As far as the LED kits go, there's 2 options, so to speak. So one of them will come with your wiring, the diodes, all the ins and outs you need to get it installed, as well as a 6-way round connector plug and a cable. And that's the kit that we used here for this particular application. But if you happen to already have one of these cables and a connector plug, then there's another kit that comes with just kind of the basics, your diodes and that wiring, things like that. And I think they do that because they offer a lot of high-end premier type tow bars that come with those components already, like the Nighthawk, for example. And so it's pretty convenient that that kind of bare bones kit's available, because if you already have those parts, there's no need to buy them twice, right? If that makes sense. So regardless of your situation, there's going to be a solution for you. But other than that, at the end of the day, like I said, we set a ton of these up here, extremely reliable. It's pretty rare that we run into any issues at all with them. So you can't really ask for too much more. As far as the installation goes, it's time consuming for sure. Just having to route wires from the front all the way to the back and getting behind your tail lights and stuff. But you do it one time, you're done. With that in mind, if wiring is something you don't like messing with or just prefer not to even mess with it at all, you can always use our dealer locator network, and that can help you find a shop in your neighborhood that can set something like this up for you. But if you're going to do it yourself, hang around. We'll go ahead, pull into the garage, and get started on it now. To begin our installation, we're going to be here at the front of our Equinox, and we do have the fascia removed, and that's because we're doing this the same time that we're doing our base plate, which is what I recommend. But it can be done with everything put back together, just a little harder to see and get to things. And with that in mind too, if you're going to be installing other wiring components that kind of take the same path as our diode wire, it makes sense to run those as well. So if you see a red wire like this, this is for a battery charge line kit and not our diodes. So just figured I'd throw that out there. But the very first thing that I like to do is take the big bundle of diode wiring, come from the engine compartment and drop it straight down. And it's just all loosely routed now. Eventually we'll secure it. But I have it coming over here to our bracket where our connector plug is going to be mounted. With the end of our wiring, what you can do is carefully cut in between each wire just a little bit to separate them. And then peel them apart. You know, I usually go a few inches. And then each one of these ends we'll strip back. One thing I kind of like to do, just to kind of give everything a fresh start, in case we nick the wire or something when we were separating them, is just cut maybe a 1/4 inch off or so. And then we're going to strip each end of insulation back a little bit, about like that. And just give that wire a good tight twist. Do the same thing for our remaining ends here. Once we have those ends like that, you can take the little dust cover that goes on the back of the connector plug and just feed the wiring through it. And if we grab our connector plug, we're going to have several terminals here, and they're going to be labeled. They might be a little tricky to see, but this one's TM for taillights, so our brown wire goes there. This is GD for ground. The white wire goes there. This one is LT for left turn. The yellow wire goes there. And this one is RT for right turn. So the green wire goes there. And then for those of you that are doing a charge line like we are, we're going to be using the center post for that. So the way these will work, you want to back out the set screw. Not all the way though, because they're tough to get back in and easy to lose. So try to pull them out about like that. And we'll take that appropriate wire, so in this case, a tail light, which will be brown. When you fit these things in here, you want the whole wire to actually go inside there. How it's set up there. And we'll just snug this screw down. We'll do the same thing for the rest of the terminals until we get them all hooked up. Got all of our wires hooked up, and this is how it turned out. Nothing really to it there. And something I recommend at the very end, once you know everything's working, you can come back and on these terminals you can put silicone on them to help keep them sealed and prevent corrosion. Works out really well, but I like to wait till we know it works in case we have to get back in here. We don't have a huge mess to deal with. So we'll kind of temporarily put the rubber boot on the back of the plug and mount this connector up here. Back up in the engine compartment, we can take our wiring, and the white wire is going to need to get grounded. It turns out right here we have a good factory ground that we can utilize. So I kind of put a bend in our wire there so we can cut it to length, and you just want to very carefully cut just the white wire. I'm just peeling these ends apart here. So the part of the white wire that goes down to our connector plug, we're going to strip that back, and this is how we're going to make our electrical connections, whether it be a ring terminal, butt connector, spade terminal, what have you. On this one though, we'll put on a ring terminal over the bare end of the wire. We'll crimp it down. And then to get this removed, I have a 13 millimeter. Get that pulled off. And take a ring terminal. This one's a little on the small side here, so you can change it to a big one, which I'll probably come back and do, but for those of you that only have one size, one thing you can do is kind of cut that end off there. That way it'll fit around it. And then we'll tighten the nut back down. remaining portion of the white wire that was still on our harness, I just peeled it off and removed it completely from the harness. And we'll hold on to it because we might end up using this a little bit later during the installation. But it makes it easier to route these wires too with one less in there. But with that said, the wiring's going to have to get routed to the back, to the taillights. And so what I did, I just ran it along through here loosely, dropped it straight down along the firewall underneath the vehicle. When you're doing this too, keep in mind you want to avoid any hot or moving parts when you're doing something like this. Underneath of our vehicle, this is where the wiring dropped down, and I just have it running along through here. Your vehicle might have an underbody panel on it. You know, make things easier to see, you can drop that panel down. There's just a couple of 10mm head fasteners along it, but just have the wiring running along these factory lines, using zip ties along the way to keep it all secure and everything. It's a pretty straight shot. This runs up along through here. Then I got it going up and over the subframe, so it's on top of the subframe there. And it comes out right here. And then what you can do, you can split the wiring up, right? So you have, I just peeled them apart, your brown, your yellow, your green. And what I did, if you remember that big bundle of white wire that we had left over, I taped that end of it to the green wire all the way down like this, and that's so we can tie this white wire into our brown wire. All right, so the way we're going to do that, take the brown wire about right here, we'll cut it, strip that end back, and I'll take into the white wire, twist those together, get them nice and tight, and then we'll take a butt connector. I'm using a heat shrink one, the ends seal up, help protect against corrosion a little bit better, but a standard one will work fine. I'll put that on, crimp it down. Then for the other end of our brown wire, right, we'll strip this one back kind of far since this butt connector is quite large. We'll twist it, double it over so the butt connector will get a better bite on it. Try to get all my stuff untangled here. Get that crimped. And then with the heat shrink style, come back with your heat source and seal up the ends. I continue to get our wiring sorted now. So on the driver's side, we're going to be left with the yellow and brown. So we'll leave this bundle here because these wires are eventually going to go up into the taillight pockets. So we'll just let them sit tight. The green wire and the white wire, that goes over to the passenger side. I just ran it along through here, and then it's kind of tricky to see, but our bumper beam is hollow. So I just fed the wires through the bumper beam all the way across. That's where they come out. And again, we'll just let our wiring hang here for now until we can pull it up into the taillight openings. To get the taillights out, go ahead and open up your hatch. And if you look, and this cover is, there's going to be two little plastic covers. You can just take a little pick or something and pop these open. And inside of there will be a T15 Torx bit screw. Pull that out, and this one as well. And what we should be able to do is just grab the tail light and apply backward pressure to it, and you can move it side to side just a little bit. So I try to do that, kind of at the same time. And that'll allow it to release, and then we'll disconnect it by pushing back on that red tab and then down on that one. That'll free it. We'll set our light off to the side, do the same thing to get the passenger side one removed. What I did here on our factory wiring, there's some tape on these wires. I just removed it, make them easier to work with. And we're gonna have to test the wiring to find our taillight signal. Prior to doing that though, I like to set up our ground wire for our diodes. That way we can use this ground to find our signal, and we kind of check and make sure it's actually a quality ground. So we kind of kill two birds with one stone, so to speak. So the kit is going to come with two little pieces of white wire. One end I crimped on a spade terminal, the other end crimped on a ring terminal. So we're going to work with the ring terminal here. Kit is going to give you a couple self-tapping screws. And I'm going to run this down into here. This is where two pieces of metal kind of stack up on each other. Like that. Now we'll have a good spot to ground our test light when we're looking for our signal. I got my test light attached to our ground, and right now I have our tail light signal on. That's what we're looking for. And so if you go through carefully each individual terminal there, one of them has power, and that's going to be our tail light signal. So in this case, on the driver's side, the white wire with the yellow stripe, that's the one that we're going to be working with. I turned our taillights off and then left the white wire with the yellow stripe exposed, taped the other ones up just to keep everything tidy, make more sense. What we're going to do, cut that in half, and then on each end, make sure in our factory wire, I'll probably strip them a little long because they're pretty thin. Kind of like with the one wire we did underneath, I'll twist them and double them up. And you'll take one of these red spade terminals there, crimp it on. Same thing for this end here. So with those set up like that, now we can grab our diode. So you have one side that says car out, and we'll plug that into the factory wire closest to our connector plug there. Other end of the factory wire, that'll go to the car in portion. And then our ground wire, that's going to get connected to the one labeled ground. We're able to get our new wiring up into the taillight pocket now, and what I've done, I just took a piece of little tubing, dropped it from the top down where it came out of the bottom, then taped our new wiring to it. You can always use take a metal coat hanger and straighten it out, or something like that'll work too. But gives us a fish wire here. That way, makes it nice and easy to get our wiring pulled into position. I took our new wiring and crimped on red terminals on the ends of it. So the new brown wire, that's going to get plugged into RV tail. And the new yellow wire, that's going to go to RV break-in. Over on the passenger side, did pretty much the same exact thing. The purple wire, or violet as some would call it, That's going to be our vehicle's taillight signal. I cut it, put it to car in. Other side of it goes to car out. Our ground is set up, exactly the same as the other side. And then the new white wire, that goes to RV tail. The new green wire goes to RV brake. One thing that I do like to do is where the terminals get plugged in, I come back, put a little silicone on it, keep everything sealed up nice. And with that done, we'll plug our taillights back in. Just kind of tuck everything out of the way here. And just reinstall our lights the opposite way that we removed them. It is a good idea to test your wiring. That way you can make sure it works properly. You can plug into your motorhome, but keep in mind, if your motorhome has any issues, it might mislead you, thinking it's something wrong on the vehicle side. So I have a test box here that will let us check everything out. We'll try out our taillight signal, our left turn, our right turn, and our brake lights. And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the Roadmaster Smart Diode Wiring Kit on our 2024 Chevrolet Equinox.